Oh, yeah. Hello, and welcome to Startups in Real Life. We are in week 5 of a 10-week, 2 times a week discussion with Rae Hames to talk about all things startup. If you like what you're seeing and hearing, if you have any insight, support, or advice, we'd really love to hear it. Drop us a message, and we would love to connect. All right, let's get to it. Good day, Rae. How are you?
Top of the morning. I am good. I'm having a good bang day. Wearing my favorite comfy sweater. I am rocking and rolling over here.
That's great. I should be wearing a sweater. We can't even see the street in front of us. The fog is so dense here in sunny
Doom gloom.
I know, right? Okay, so last week we had a great conversation around remote work and the rise of the entire freelance industry. Today, let's dig into how companies are going about hiring freelancers. You have a lot of experience with that. Can we start with what are the main ways that brands find their freelance talent?
Yeah, and I think it's this is an urgent question, right? Because as we were talking about last week, more and more talent is going freelance, and the ways that brands connect with freelancers is going to change. There's a lot of options out there, and there have been some historical ones that we'll talk about, and there's kind of new ones that are coming up. But ultimately, it's like an urgent piece of the puzzle to solve for brands to make it really easy to find great freelancers that they can trust, that they can bring into teams on a more flexible basis. So talking about kind of the like landscape as it is today, there's a couple different ways that brands can find freelance talent. First and the easiest one is always going to be referrals, right? Like this, whether you're a big company or a tiny one, this is colleagues that you've known from past roles. So a lot of the times it's past employees that have left to do their own thing or have left to take fractional roles and are doing more fractional support. We see that a lot. Definitely word of mouth, that it's just referral based recruitment, if you want to call it recruitment. For companies that are a little larger and that have internal resources, sometimes that comes with the support of like an internal HR or recruiting team. A lot of the times what we've seen, especially in the creative space, is like it's all at the strength of a creative director's Rolodex. But depending on the company size and depending on how many resources they have available, like I said, like sometimes that, the freelance call can come out of HR and recruiting, putting up job postings as well. A couple other sources, like contingent staffing is a big one, right? Like we talk about freelancing, and there's so many different flavors of freelancing. There's real gig-based work, design me a logo in and out. And there's longer contract roles that, could be 6 to 12 to 18 months long that are project based. And we see a lot of those coming through contingent staffing agencies. So those are the Creative Circles of the world, the Adecos, there's a lot of these big staffing companies that support large scale brands. And there's a lot of logistical reasons why those companies have a place in the ecosystem, but it does definitely come at a cost premium. And the other big one that, there's a million options out there are freelance marketplaces. And I think that that's a tricky one because for small businesses, they can be so helpful, right? Like you don't have a huge contact list of people to tap into. Maybe you're just getting something off the ground. And you just need to be able to search and filter. I need to know, I need to find a WordPress website designer. And those can be great options. But I think that the difficulty with marketplaces that is true for both brands looking for talent and for talent looking for roles is that it's like a needle in the haystack to find a good match. Some of them can be truly like thrift store shopping, which is also what I'd say about dating apps. But, I think that there's a really big range of quality of freelance marketplaces. And from what I've seen and from what the clients that I've worked with in the past have seen, you do a lot better finding talent through more niche talent networks and like talent collectives than you typically do from a marketplace model. And there can be a lot of restrictions on access to those networks that are sometimes for talent only. And getting into those communities and kind of making a name for yourself can be a great way to find net new, like really high caliber talent, but it's just a lot of work. It's networking on both sides for both hiring managers and for talent.
And can you go into that a little bit further? Because, I think small brands, right? Nobody knows the name. It's not like you're some big brand that everyone's like, oh, I want to work for them or with
Right.
them.
Right.
So tell me a little bit more about what it is you need to do to get yourself kind of into the community.
Well, it depends on the community. I mean, there's a lot of groups out there. Like, I'm a huge Freelance Founders fan. Shout out to Carolyn. And there's a handful of groups out there like them that are really meant to support talent, right? Like, they are a community of creative freelancers that are supporting each other. And there's gig shout outs, there's a job board, all of that's in service of helping freelancers build their portfolios. But the focus of the community isn't on hanging your shingle. The focus of the community is becoming better at your craft and finding people that are in a similar state of mind as yourself to, like, it's genuine community support. So from a brand perspective, I mean, it's a little tricky. I found them as a freelancer myself, and I think that, to go back to your other point, though, about the difficulty of small businesses, maybe without logo recognition, being able to attract talent, that is a difficult one, because it's so much easier when you say, hey, I'm Nike and I am hiring a visual designer, and you are going to get flooded with applicants who are interested in working for you. But if you're a startup, let's say, carbon neutral shoe company that's going to be a competitor to Nike, you're going to really have to go on the strength of your vision and the strength of your role description.
Exactly.
And that's a lot of legwork.
Yeah, and that's where I was going with it is, it's similar to advertising. It's like, and, email campaigns, anything else. It's like, you've got to get them to click through and then make sure that you just keep them engaged because of the problem you're trying to solve, and making it really clear up front so that before they even get to the details of the description, they're like, oh, that's a cool company. I think that it's so important that, we don't, discard the importance of that, writing that description of, it's more than just, this is what I need. It's like, you better sell your vision right there, on that post.
Yeah, totally. And I think that there's a lot of power in being able to attract and filter applicants based on their alignment with what your company does in the first place, like what category is even in, but also just the ethos of your company, I think that there's a lot of exciting opportunities there for talent matching, where you can imagine you have a job description that has just very quick bullet points for applicants to view. Here's what we're about. We're about sustainability. We're about outdoor activity. We're about obsessive fit, right? We're talking about this made up shoe company. And what you're naturally going to do from that is you're going to say, you're going to pique the curiosity of people who fit okay, I'm a visual designer. Cool. That's what I do. But also, I'm a huge runner. This totally makes sense to me. And I drive a Prius.
Yeah.
Broad stroke generalizations. But I think that going back to the original question about how brands find freelancers in the first place, like, I think it's as much work for hiring managers to find great talent as it is work for talent to find great roles. And that's just the ecosystem.
Right. I mean, which is kind of on to our next question. You've been on both sides of the table. What is the unique difference, you think, when you're on the brand side versus the agency side when you're looking for freelance talent?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I've sat on all three sides. I've been a freelancer myself. Yeah. I've been a hiring manager of freelancers within agencies, and I've been a brand side leader leading both agencies and in-house teams. And so from all those seats, I can speak from an agency perspective. Usually hiring feels more nimble because, like I said, your team leader has people that they've worked with in the past. Oh, we need a photographer. Oh, here's these 3 people. Oh, we need a packaging designer. Here's a couple names to check in with, right? And at least there's enough to start but it's literally calling around. You know, I think that's the agency space right now, is like, it's still very much like the strength of your people and the people that your people know. But the difficulty on the agency side is that when it comes down to budgets, you know what your target budget is because you know that you're trying to make a markup on what the client rate allowable is.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of flex, and depending on who's available and depending on what they're going to charge for the work, and is there going to be a rush order involved, and are there going to be overages, because there usually are, you're going to lose. You have to navigate losing margin, and how much margin you're willing to give up for the right talent. And if nobody's available within your budget, you got to go back to the client to ask for more budget. And it can be really protracted to get the team off the ground. You know, and so I think that that's a major factor there. And then on the brand side, it's interesting because hiring kind of gig-based freelancers, in my experience, I don't have a ton of, I haven't done that. We hired badge contractors, right? And so it was a different relationship. And it was so similar to the interview process that I went through as a full-time employee. You know, you're doing rounds of interviews, you're doing background checks, you're doing security checks. This is obviously at, like, you know, a major tech campus, but that's how it works. And from there, you know, you're submitting timesheet. It's like a very technical, it feels like a full-time job.
Yeah, it does.
You know, and there's trade-offs because those type of long-term kind of badged contractor roles come with a fair amount of time stability. You know that you're going to be on this for 6 to 18 months. But the trade-off is that you don't have the same type of benefits and holiday you know, your holiday pay. You just don't have the same setup as a full-time employee, even though you're usually working under very similar conditions and deadlines. And I would like, so yeah, I think that the trade-off on the brand side is that, especially if you're a bigger brand, you get logo recognition. If you're an agency supporting a big brand, there's still kind of like, what's my relationship to this company? I'm still working for this agency. When I was at Electronic Arts, I'm like, I'm hiring for EA. You know, you're going to attract a specific type of person. It's going to be easy to get a lot of options. But it's just a longer process to get them truly on board.
And what is it that kind of helps the brand decide, am I going to hire this person as an employee versus freelance? Kind of what are the trade-offs that the brands are making?
I think, I mean, and we kind of talked about this last week, right? Because the ecosystem right now feels very unstable. And I think that brands are having a lot of, you know, hesitations around adding to full-time headcount. Again, I speak only for the Bay Area. I look at the jobs reports in every other state and every other city's up. So I got to take everything with a grain of salt. But, you know, I think that more and more brands are looking at hiring freelance talent as like a stepping stone to full-time roles, right? And it's not only, let's see how this goes. Let's like try, you know, try before you buy. I don't love that from a talent perspective, but it actually goes both ways because it gives talent an opportunity to see, do I really want to work at this place long-term? Do I want to commit long-term? You know, but I think that from a brand perspective, hiring freelance or contract roles for a set period of time to see, not only is this person a good fit, are their skills actually what we need, but also, is this is the skill sets that they're bringing to the table something that our team needs long term? Because if we're going to go through, or we're rebuilding a you know, e-com website, it's a massive, large scale effort. It's going to take 24 months to rebuild the infrastructure and get this off the ground. And then, you know, you have a big team, you have a lot of hands on deck to have that happen, but you need fewer hands on deck to maintain that long term. And I don't say that with any malice about like job cutting or lack of stability. I think it's genuinely an opportunity to rethink how people come in and out of projects when they're most needed. And also that they can roll off and on and find, you know what I mean? Like, I think the best system is one where there's an ecosystem that keeps people involved in long-term projects, but on a rolling client basis, so that everybody is benefiting from some efficiency there.
And that everyone's being treated with respect and honesty.
Yeah.
I think that that's an important piece of it. And I think as a freelancer, as you get more and more familiar with the space, you respect that, you know, when a brand is like, this is a 6 to 8 month, and it really is only, you know, it isn't going any further. I think that honesty is really important.
And a career freelancer has that same relationship with work. I'm
Yeah.
here for a good time, not a long time. I'm here
Right.
to do great work and explore this brand. And, maybe you do fall in love with the team and fall in love with the work and you say, hey, let me know if there's a full-time role. I would love to come on board full-time.
Mhm.
But you may also say, I'm here until summer break and then me and the family are going to Bali.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the flexibility that lifestyle is meant to enable. Bali or grandmas or whatever. But I think that there's
I pick
so
Bali.
much mutual benefit in a more transparent and realistic relationship between brands and the talent that they employ in whatever basis they're employing them on.
Yeah. Good. All right. So to wrap this up, let's talk a little bit about the team. So we're 4 weeks away from the launch of our MVP with Tamara. And what's on the agenda for this week?
Yeah, 4 weeks out. We had a meeting yesterday, kind of team sync around 1 month to go. I'm feeling very good. I think that the product team is on track. We've got our demos live and available now for our 2 main products that we're launching with. So that's a big checkbox. We got that done. We're going to be working towards an interactive demo that'll be available, like hosted on our website once we launch as well. That will be kind of a evergreen piece that people can really dive in for themselves to see what it feels like before they commit to purchase. We are working on launching our first interactive tool to help customers, and we talked about this last week as well, to help customers identify when it makes sense to bring on an Elastic team.
Yeah.
So we'll be launching that this week. I am looking forward to, I believe it's going to be next week, but I have some exciting PR updates is that I'm featured on Nathan Latka's podcast. And so I recorded that a few days back, and that should be coming out in early July. And then we are having a couple internal kind of logistics pieces. We're having an advisory roundtable meeting this week to give our advisor board just an update on how things are tracking and to give some asks to the team. Like, this is something that for other kind of early stage startup founders to think about, like how you can actively engage your advisor board. We're throwing big asks at our advisors, like send us customer referrals, get our demos out to people that act as we need sales support from every person on this tiny team. And so that's something that we're making a big priority this week. And then the other piece is I'm having some early conversations with potential investors. And this is just looking towards the future. I don't expect that we're going to raise immediately, but that I do think that our business is going to be poised for growth in pretty short order. I think that I'm very excited about the product. I think that the market is ripe for this. With a little early traction, we would be in a really great position to raise a pre-seed round at the very least. And so I'm just starting to have some initial conversations with folks who, there's some alignment there, whether they're investors in female-founded businesses, whether they're investors in future of work technology, that's our category. And so, I think that it's just great to get in front of people and to hear their reactions and put faces to names. Right. So doing a little bit of the legwork this week on that as well.
That's a lot that you're going through. And I also wanted to mention that this week we're going to have a guest on the show on Thursday.
Next show.
And we're very excited about talking with Nick Hammond.
Yeah.
And I think in the future, I would love to bring and have a whole topic just around bootstrapped versus VC, talking about that landscape, the different types, and when, the pros and cons of bringing it in early, later, mid time. So maybe we bring in another guest for that as well. So
yeah. A lot to talk about on the whole ecosystem for sure. But this week, Nick Hammond, we'll be talking to him, getting a talent perspective, talking about what it's like to be a career freelancer and, the experience that as a in-demand creative, what he's looking for from potential clients, just as much as the other way around.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks, Rae. And everyone, have a great day. Have a great week. Take care.